it's been a little over a year since the Turnbull government was re-elected.
I'd like to personally thank the constituency that made my second term possible. Piece of shit youths that were too cool to vote Labour and allowed us to scrape over the line by 30,000 votes.
Oh, sick. Praise from the President of Australia and I didn't have to do shit. I'm killing it.
Don't reach for the stars, reach for the Mars.
So to celebrate, let's look at Malcolm Turnbull's crown accomplishment in government, the National Broadband Network. Or as it's known by the Guinness Book of Records, the world's longest, most expensive piece of shit.
I obliterated the original title holder, a Russian oligarch that eats nothing but caviar and does nothing but snakers.
I'll get it back.
A piece of shit that, remember, Malcolm Turnbull said,
Shall deliver fantastical speeds of 25 megabits per second, be completed by 2016, and all for just $29.50.
First off, anything to do with the net and the figure 29 is always a rip-off. The only thing Malcolm Turnbull could have done to make it any more obvious that he was fleecing us is when he replaced the NBN CEO Mike Quigley with a puppet loyal to him. He just went the whole hog and made it the Dodo mascot. I should win an award for mascot that looks most likely to have fucked a lot of backpackers. Might have made it more palatable when by December of 2013, so just a couple of months after the coalition was elected, the NBN Co was forced to admit, if you thought $29 billion was too good to be true, it is. It's actually going to cost us $41 billion, but still slightly cheaper than Labor's, and like comparing me to the CGI in Avatar, so much worse. Then, in 2015, it was announced that Malcolm Turnbull's trademark, definitely the first person to ever use this phrase, broadband, is going to cost $5 billion more than Labor's. Let's be crystal clear about this. To have proper broadband, where information, or in the vast majority of instances, brazzers, would have just apparated straight to your house like the wizards after a day of shopping at Diagon Alley, except for way more smutty because the wizard would be Rockers of Freddy.
Hey yo, I'm the star of the movie Aristotle and the Golden Snatch.
That would have cost 10% less than Turnbull's plan, where he's building 21st century technology to a node on your street, and then like the students catching the Hogwarts Express, it'll make the rest of the journey on 19th century technology, which made me feel like asking the Liberals the same question I felt like yelling at the screen while watching The Prisoner of Azkaban.
That's dumb. Why don't they just operate the whole way?
Because, and they'll never admit this, the reason we're not even in the world's top 50 internet speeds, we have worse broadband than Kenya, and there's just a bunch of marathon runners going,
You've got an email!
is because good broadband isn't good news for bad news. Don't you mean bad ass news? Fuck no. Alright, okay, the bad was going too far. What about just ass news? Rupert Murdoch didn't want a broadband network because link in the description already covered. Then he'd have to compete with even more products like Netflix and Stan. And so just so he could keep his stranglehold on the very lucrative market of Mad About You reruns, the Liberals, in the biggest coincidence I've ever read about in Australian political history, definitely didn't discuss broadband with Rupert Murdoch in a meeting they had with him the day before they announced their broadband plan on Foxtel, where they unveiled mixed technology, or as it's known by industry experts, mechanical puke. As it is, are you ready for this? 1% as fast as Labor's broadband. I wonder why that wasn't a central issue of the last election. I wonder why there was barely a whisper from any of Rupert Murdoch's corporate whores posing as journalists that Labor's broadband could have reached speeds of 1,000 megabits per second and would have cost us $45 billion, while the Liberal Party's broadband is costing us $50 billion and is currently delivering us speeds of 10! So at this point I invite you to take a step back and really appreciate just how little of a fuck the Australian media and the current governing party actually give about the direction of this nation, as together they've successfully handed over a once-in-a-century economic opportunity, just like they did our ranking in education, to the South Koreans, who are just using it for StarCraft, which is mind-bogglingly malevolent when you consider that broadband will be as vital to prosperity in the 21st century as the electric grid was to the 19th century, and we were in a unique position to get a massive head start on the digital economy as we were one of the only nations on Earth that could actually afford to build a competent broadband network, and the Liberals looked at that golden opportunity and did the modern equivalent of declaring,
Despite the fact we could easily afford a national railway line, let's instead put a bunch of skates on some camels. Naturally, it should require some crossover technologies, such as this stick, to smack them when they misbehave.
In short, Labor's broadband could have set us up for the rest of the century, and the Liberals, just so they could get positive headlines from the Murdoch press for a single election cycle, trashed it. In all likelihood, the real cost of this cord Frankenstein isn't $50 billion, it's hundreds of billions of dollars in lost earnings, And that's not even the worst of it, because by creating this extremely overpriced mat of cords, Malcolm Turnbull has guaranteed that we will never see services like eHealth that could have delivered telemonitoring, remote diagnostics, consultancy to far-off rural areas that now, because we've got worse broadband than countries where you have to haggle for genuine Obama the Hedgehog Pokemon bags, can't. Meaning Australian citizens will die. Which, to be perfectly honest, I'm not even surprised by anymore, as it's just one of the litany of examples of the Liberal Party passing legislation that any just court would open and shut rule is manslaughter. But what does surprise me to this day is that the general public allowed a party that is that self-serving, that malicious, that short-sighted, that moronic back into power for a second term and... Oh, that's right, our media feeds us absolute I'm making the bullshit just the way you like it, huh? And
You are what you eat.
did you know you can eat food with your vagina?
Please press the subscribe button now.